In July 1944, U.S. military commanders finalized plans to recapture Tinian Island, a key Japanese stronghold in the Pacific. The strategy involved a surprise amphibious landing on the island's less defended northwest coast, codenamed White Beach. Intelligence reports indicated that Japanese forces had heavily fortified the southern beaches, expecting an attack there. Admiral Raymond Spruance and General Holland Smith oversaw the operation, which aimed to secure Tinian's airfields for future B-29 bomber missions. The plan relied on precise naval bombardment and coordinated troop movements to minimize casualties. On July 24, 1944, U.S. battleships and cruisers launched a massive naval bombardment on Tinian's defenses. Over 11,000 shells were fired in just 2 days, targeting Japanese artillery positions, bunkers, and communication lines. The USS Colorado and USS Louisville led the assault, supported by aerial strikes from carrier-based planes. Despite heavy resistance, the bombardment significantly weakened Japanese fortifications, paving the way for the amphibious landing. This phase was critical to reducing U.S. casualties during the initial assault. At dawn on July 24, 1944, U.S. Marines and Army troops began landing on White Beach under heavy Japanese fire. Higgins boats transported soldiers through shallow waters, while amphibious tanks provided cover. Despite initial chaos, the element of surprise worked in their favor, as Japanese defenses were weaker here. By midday, over 15,000 troops had landed, though casualties mounted from hidden machine gun nests. This marked the beginning of a grueling ground campaign to secure the island. By the end of the first day, U.S. forces had established a fragile beachhead at White Beach. Engineers worked tirelessly to clear obstacles and set up supply lines, while medics tended to the wounded. Japanese snipers and mortar fire caused constant threats, slowing progress. Despite these challenges, artillery units were quickly positioned to support the advance inland. The beachhead became a lifeline for reinforcements and supplies, crucial for the upcoming battles in Tinian's dense jungles. As U.S. troops pushed inland, they encountered fierce resistance in Tinian's thick jungles. Japanese soldiers used the terrain to their advantage, setting up ambushes and booby traps. Flamethrowers became essential for clearing dense foliage and enemy bunkers. Progress was slow, with temperatures soaring and supplies running low. By July 26th, the Americans had gained control of key high ground, but the Japanese launched a series of counterattacks to reclaim lost territory. On the night of July 25th, Japanese forces launched a desperate Banzai charge against U.S. positions. Hundreds of soldiers, armed with bayonets and grenades, stormed American lines in a suicidal attack. The fighting was brutal and hand-to-hand, with both sides suffering heavy losses. U.S. troops held their ground, using machine guns and artillery to repel the assault. This marked the last major organized resistance by Japanese forces on Tinian. By July 31st, U.S. forces had captured Tinian's critical airfield, a major strategic objective. Engineers quickly repaired the runway to accommodate B-29 bombers, which would later launch raids on Japan. The airfield's fall signaled the beginning of the end for Japanese defenders, who were now isolated and low on supplies. American control of the skies ensured dominance over the remaining pockets of resistance. As the battle raged, hundreds of Tinian civilians surrendered to U.S. troops, seeking refuge from the fighting. Many had been hiding in caves or jungles, terrified by the constant shelling. American forces distributed food and medical aid, though some civilians initially feared retaliation. Leaflets dropped by planes urged surrender, saving countless lives. This humanitarian effort contrasted sharply with the brutality of the combat zones. By August 1st, Japanese resistance had collapsed into isolated pockets. U.S. troops methodically cleared caves and tunnels, where holdouts refused to surrender. Flamethrowers and grenades were used to eliminate stubborn defenders. The fighting was brutal but brief, as the remaining Japanese forces were either killed or captured. Tinian was officially declared secure on August 2, 1944, marking a decisive U.S. victory. The recapture of Tinian cost over 1,500 U.S. casualties, while nearly all 8,000 Japanese defenders perished. The island's airfields soon became launch sites for B-29 bombers, including the Enola Gay, which dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. Tinian's fall was a turning point in the Pacific War, demonstrating the effectiveness of amphibious assaults and combined arms tactics. The battle's lessons would shape future operations, including the invasions of Iwo Jima and Okinawa.